Quinn said, surveying the road. He squinted into the distance and shook his head.
Looks like the scout is returning, with good news, I hope.
The look on his face was so dour it belied his statement of hopefulness.
Where are Piper and the bloke who wouldn't stop hitting me?
Pietro asked, trying to sit up and look around. The sky remained firmly above him, and the clouds churned along, their sickening motion threatening the meager contents of his stomach. His head felt like a sandbag had been dropped on it, pinning him to the ground. He didn't think he could turn to the side if he actually did throw up. The corner of Quinn's lip twitched, but the weak smile didn't reach his eyes. Bella's brow furrowed deeper, not happy about the mention of her erstwhile husband, the man who had beaten the hell out of him and was probably the cause of his vile headache.
The wee lass and my brother parted ways with us yesterday,
Quinn said.
Do you not remember that either?
They were looking at him like he was addled. He would have rolled his eyes, but it hurt too much. God, he wished the clouds would just take a break with their rolling past his vision. He tried to concentrate on the soothing dark green of the pines instead and breathed deeply. Once again he tried to sit up, but his limbs wouldn't cooperate.
Aye, I remember now. You needn't look at me that way. My head hurts is all.
The pounding hooves of the scout barreling up on them didn't help at all. The man had ridden hard to catch up to them with his news. Pietro lay in anxious frustration as Quinn went to hear what the man had to say. He spoke in an agitated undertone, pacing back and forth in front of his heaving and lathered horse.
What are they saying?
Pietro asked Bella. With intense concentration, he managed to sit up, rocking forward and resting his head on his knees. She stroked the back of his neck and offered him a drink of water.
Nothing good, she said. My father's men are on their way.
He gulped the water and choked to find it was mixed with a liberal amount of throat-searing raw whiskey. After the initial burn wore off, the drink started to ease the ache in his head.
Ah, that's nice. Thank you, love.
He tried to take her hand, but she scooted out of his grasp.
Wait, what do you mean about your father? Why are his men on their way?
He took another long swig and tried to puzzle out her expression. She stared stonily at the scout and Quinn, who was gesticulating wildly to the three men who'd been riding with them since they'd left Castle Glen the day before. Pietro knew they hadn't left on the best of terms, but he hadn't imagined Bella's father would actually come after her. She refused to offer any explanation other than her grim expression, and he placed his palms on the ground on either side of him and pushed upward until he got his legs underneath him. Once he was upright, the stabbing pain in his head returned in force, and he knew continuing to down the whiskey wasn't going to help anymore and would probably serve to knock him back on his ass. Bloody Lachlan Ferguson. The beating he'd taken for sleeping with the man's wife must have shaken something loose. Bella grabbed his arm and wedged her small frame under his shoulder to help him stay standing after he swayed with the incessant wind that blew in from the north. With her help, he hobbled over to hear what the men were saying. The scout had just finished giving some apparently startling news, and Quinn let loose with a stream of cursing that made his men slink back as he stomped past them.
How close are they?
He finally asked the scout when he'd exhausted his supply of swear words.
Close, perhaps 5 miles behind me and riding hard.
Even in Pietro's distressed state, he had to admit to being impressed when Quinn began a fresh tirade of new and inventive curses. He'd never picture farm animals the same again.
This one is too sick to ride. We shall be overtaken if we try to outrun them,
he finally said, dragging his fingers through his wind-tangled hair.
I'm better,
Pietro lied bravely, straightening up and trying not to wince with the effort it caused him to keep standing. Bella sighed beneath his arm. Quinn glared at him and shook his head.
This is no time to be falsely brave, though I appreciate you trying. These men have serious bad feelings toward us. There will be no discussion if they catch up to us, and I'm not in the mood to have to kill anyone today.
He looked up at the trees and laughed mirthlessly.
Or be killed, for that matter.
He squeezed his eyes shut for a moment, then nodded to his 3 men.
Ye must keep riding hell-bent toward home and warn them. Dinna stop until everyone is armed and ready for whatever the Glens may have in mind when they reach our land.
He turned to the scout and clapped his hand on the worn-out man's shoulder.
Your horse is in no condition to ride so fast and so far, so ye must be a decoy and continue on to the next village. Act as if you're still looking for us if they choose to follow ye. If they take ye, rest assured.